Welcome back to the Aliens and Angels podcast. Today, I'm very happy to bring back Jeff Selver and Nancy Thames. Both Jeff and Nancy have had extensive contact with the Greys, and both share their important messages for humankind. Please feel free to post your questions in the chat and share out this link so that other people can join us. All of the links are featured below in the description. Thanks for liking, commenting, subscribing, and please do share this content with your friends. And I'm happy to announce that channel memberships are now available, so you can receive my perks. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Jeff and Nancy. Hi, guys. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having us, Karen. Yeah, thanks for having us here.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be here.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much for coming. Just going to click on the comments for when people arrive. So I'm wondering, I thought I didn't do a long introduction for either of you because I thought maybe you'd like to share in your own words how you got started in this, how you became contactees, just a little bit about your background for those that are unfamiliar. Do you want to start us off, Nancy?
Sure, I will. So my name is Nancy Thames, and I'm a lifelong contactee with interdimensional extraterrestrials, which include many, many races. And I am bonded with the Greys, and I'm also bonded with the elders. So I just have many, many experiences that I'm learning every single day. Every day is something new. And I'm so thankful to be here with other people that are having the same experiences as me. It's not very often that I get the honor of doing this. So thank you very much.
Oh, our pleasure. Our pleasure. Jeff, do you want to say a little something about yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Karen. This has been great. And I'm really happy to be here with Nancy as well, too. My story, how I got involved. I made an agreement with gray aliens to discover my soul. I was a part of an experiment on their behalf, and I wasn't aware of it. So the other guy living out his normal life just was having bizarre experiences that never resolved themselves for 2 decades of my life. And then orbs and objects were flying in my vicinity at the age of 41, and it was combined with telepathic communication from the objects that slowly unraveled that I had a previous history I was unaware of with the entities, and spent a good chunk of my life, about a year, unraveling what they had actually occurred. And it was 26 contact events with gray aliens, starting from birth and all the way to the present. Yeah, and actually, like Nancy, I love that you mentioned that, Nancy, bonded. Yeah, definitely. To learn and make sense of some of the feelings and sensations that you're actually bonded to the entities. And for me, it's this idea that Susie Hansen, author of The Dual Soul Connection, this idea that you have a dual soul or a dual consciousness, and there's a genetic component too. So yeah, I'm bonded to these entities.
Wonderful. Hi, Lisa. I just want to say hi to Lisa Lynn, who popped into the chat. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us. You know what I think is really interesting is for a long time, the whole ET or UFO phenomena was based on nuts and bolts. You know, we want to see the wreckage, we want to see the bolts and the nuts and the physical evidence. Where's the physical evidence? But throughout, especially recently, and as your experiences and my experience bring out, there's a huge spiritual component, and there's an interdimensional or transdimensional component to it as well. And it even seems to be somewhat wrapped up with the whole paranormal thing. And the way I see it, and I'm just speaking from my own experience, not for you guys, but in my experience, I find that lucid dreaming, remote viewing, astral projection, are all parts of the same phenomenon that was also tied into my ET experiences. Nancy, do you want to speak a little bit to how the view has shifted and how it's becoming better recognized as a spiritual phenomenon?
Well, I think that the world is experiencing all of the world, all of every human being is experiencing some form of ascension, and they are waking up to their inner soul self. More people are starting to look within rather than reaching out to other individuals or governments for answers. All this information is stored in us. I'm under the well, I've been told that we all made a choice to come to Earth. And this is a place of learning, a place to gain experiences for us on a soul level and for us to wake up. And I think bit by bit, all around the world, this is starting to happen. Now, it won't occur for everyone, but they will ascend a little bit to getting them closer. So it's just a beautiful time to be alive, to be able to experience these things. And we're all a part of this. This is not just people in paranormal or ufology or anything. This is a worldwide phenomena that is happening not only to us, but to our pets, our planet, all living creatures on our planet, and also in the universe, because we're all connected and we're all one.
Well said, well said. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, on the consciousness part, I think I like also thinking about, like, they did go nuts and bolts for a while, and then you have these, these whistleblower guys, and they're one of Lou Elizondo's first comments in the early days was that this is related to consciousness. And now you've got Ross Coulthart and himself saying that they haven't been able to reverse engineer craft because they require consciousness. And that is a real big stepping stone to the validation that you actually need to have a certain type of consciousness to interact with these things. And I think that, I mean, I know from my personal experience that, yes, we are all going to have to embrace our own spiritual self, our own spirit within the body, just to interact with these entities, to be in their world, to involve them ourselves with their technology. And I think that's going to be the big shocker, because we have been repressing that part of ourselves throughout human history. Maybe not full repression, but we've been confused by it. Let's put it that way. And I think these guys are going to help us set some of that stuff straight. And but it is clearly about consciousness, largely also too, because there's research out there now, people who've studied experiencers, and the free research is just a good example of this. People come back off craft with expanded consciousness abilities, and it's because you're in an environment that supports that, and you're using a part of yourself, whether it's telepathy or astral projection, and so you're coming back off craft, and you're having abilities that sometimes you don't even recognize or understand. So yeah, this is all about consciousness, and the public will soon learn how deeply it goes, actually.
I know, unfortunately, there's a lot of people who are very much afraid. And of course, Hollywood, a lot of the movies, I can remember watching, I think it was called Invasion from Mars when I was a kid. And boy, that just freaked me right out. And even real experiences like Travis Walton, when they made the movie about his experience, they made it really scary. And
Right.
apparently he says, no, the ET saved his life, quite the contrary to the way the movie went. And so I thought that was really interesting. So I'm wondering what advice the two of you have for people who are feeling afraid, which again, I think is a normal reaction, but what can you tell people to help them to feel a little bit calmer and more open to this whole idea? Nancy, you want to start us
Sure.
off?
Well, again, I don't mean to be repetitive, but looking within, getting to know your inner soul self, your higher self, asking it to come forward and help you with these. If you've had an experience, help them to help you to understand it. Our brain will purposely block out certain things to protect us. Give it permission to open up and help you with the fear. Specifically say, why am I experiencing fear? And then they will probably either come to you within a dream, or something in your life will be synchronized with this and give you the answers that you need. But the first step is recognizing the fact that we have been programmed since our birth to be afraid of things and to be dumbed down. This was all done intentionally to keep us locked into this negative 3D realm, but we now have the potential to pull ourselves out into higher thinking, higher wellness, and higher understanding. And the only way to get there is to look within and ask yourself for help and work on being a better version. We'll never be perfect, but work on a better version of yourself. And these things will fall intact. And it's just like all of the interdimensionals, extraterrestrials, the whole shebang tell me, be patient. Let evolution run its course, and it's going to do a whole lot of this stuff for us.
Wow, it's a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think that was really well said, Nancy. And the other element I would add is we just don't have any evidence for malevolent behavior. And like we have, again, I'll go back to that free research. We had 5,000 experiencers research, went through a questionnaire. 93% of the correspondents believe the entities to not be malevolent, so to be benevolent, that they don't have malevolent intentions. That's a high number compared to the mythologies that are out there, compared to a lot of storytelling that's out there that doesn't match people's personal experiences. So we just don't have, yes, the entities can be, they can usher growth, which can sometimes be about breaking our own minds. So then there can be maybe an intensity behind that. But in the end, we typically have contactees who come out saying, you know what, I think they were showing me something. So we're having growth, and we're having, also the other part too is you look at, it was the free research book, Beyond UFOs. And one of the researchers there was startled to learn that humans experience love from entities, from extraterrestrial beings. And that is a big shocker. The public isn't really aware of that contactees can experience love from them, that they have care and kindness and compassion and love for the individual that they're interacting with. That's huge information that it gets, quelched, because the fear dialogue likes to, take over. And but the reality is we don't have a lot of evidence for that type of malevolent behavior. We're having a lot of contactees talk about positivity, love, compassion, consciousness, growth. Yeah. So.
Yeah, both of you have such good points. So thank you so much for being on the show today. And it's really nice for me to be able to visit with other people who know what I'm talking about and have experienced similar. It's just, so refreshing. Now, I want to bring up another subject that's closely aligned with what we've been talking about, and that is the whole concept of telepathy. Now, we've basically been taught languages and words, which are, of course, a great source of misunderstanding and is a very limited way to communicate. But obviously, we have the potential for telepathic communication, because so many of us have received have actually participated in and received telepathic communication, which we wouldn't be able to do if we didn't have the physiology to allow for that. And I think that is another thing that's really interesting, and perhaps part of ET's message to us is that we can start trusting our intuition and our, as Nancy said, our experts and spiritual guides within. And I'm wondering if either of you have any thoughts on that at all.
I think that we all have this potential, and it is starting to activate. When we were born, these type of things were considered kind of devilish or considered weird. and people got stereotyped. And so a lot of these things within our they were like brushed aside and forgotten. So now though we're more in a world where we're open to these things and it's not taboo as much as it used to. So I think that we're going to be more, start to notice these things, and it will more start to activate more. And I think that that's part of the ascension process too.
Mhm.
The more positive we get, the more aware that we are about our choices in life, our decisions we make. All this stems to higher frequency and higher awareness, which we have like these little imaginary antennas that are reaching out into, say, for example, like when we first got a black and white TV and we took the antenna and we're moving it around, trying to catch that frequency to get a picture on the station. That is what our brain is doing. We're whirling around with all this information, and we're to the point and reaching higher frequencies, and we're tuning into this knowledge. And we're
Mhm.
realizing that we have lots of things that we're capable of doing. We're very unique human beings. We have just been suppressed from knowing these things, but those days are going fast. They're going fast, and we are
Mhm.
all getting in tune with these frequencies and understanding the truths about the world. And the sad part about this, though, is as we raise our frequencies and awareness, and we see the truth, some negative things will surface. But that's part of this ascension process too. We have some people need to see this to push them over the edge and realize it's time for change. It's time, that we pull in and start working within and being a better version of human beings.
Mhm. Mhm.
Very good. Yeah, I actually think too that we're constantly using telepathy as it is. Um, it's very subtle in between each other, and I do think that something is happening in the environment, collective consciousness, sure ascension, where we are. Um, you can become more aware of that subtle experience of telepathy between us. But I think that when you don't like someone's vibe, and it's really they're emanating their energy form, and you're able to pick it up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Someone's lying, even though they've mastered their body language. You can pick it up. You can pick up people's thoughts while they're ruminating by themselves. And it's or the idea that I don't know what your guys' experience is like, but I can pick up people texting. Right, I can feel them about to text me, and then the text shows up. So things like that. I think that we're all picking up all these, and I think the more we create language and dialogue that allows those experiences to be normal for us, the more that we're allowing a space in our brain to zero in on it, and then that just keeps expanding the personal experience over time. Yeah, it's definitely telepathy is, I think, always been there, especially with animals. And I guess there's a new podcast out,
Mhm.
the telepathy tapes, kind of proving that it's actually amongst us. Yeah,
Mhm.
so very good.
Yep, I would agree with both of you. I even think that it actually spills over into the plant kingdom and perhaps even the
Yeah.
crystals. It's been amazing, how you have a crystal, the particular color and shape, and it kind of calls to you, and you feel comfort by having it nearby. I use orgone generators a lot, and it really helps me. I can't explain it. It just seems to boost my spiritual strength somehow as well. I'm just going to say a quick hi to Angel Wings. Hi, Angel Wings. So glad to have you join us in the live chat. Angel Wings is one of my channel members. So very nice for you to meet with us today. Yeah, it's interesting. Quite a few of the people that will be in the live chat are also experiencers of one kind or another. And what I love about this is, in the beginning, I sort of thought I was crazy, because I hadn't found others like me. And now that I realize there's so many of us, it's such a relief because, not only is it a relief to know that I'm not crazy or imagining things, but it's also a relief that I'm not the only one. And I've always said I'm not the grand poobah, I'm not the spokesperson, I'm not the earth representation. of the beings I've had contact with. I'm just sharing my experience. I'm wondering, Nancy and Jeff, what's your take on it? Do you feel like you're some kind of, I'm not trying to put this the wrong way, please don't take it the wrong way, but do you feel like you're special and some kind of a representative here on Earth for the ETs or anything like that? Or do you think it's more of a common shared experience that we're all getting, we all have equal opportunity for?
I personally know that I incarnated here from the interdimensional realm, from the elders, and that I am bonded with probably about 7 races, and that I was sent here upon my agreement to be here at this particular time, to be a messenger, to help with misinformation, to help raise humanity's frequency. And my 2 sons were also sent here with me, and they both had their own Kundalini awakenings gifted to them, as I had 3 in a row gifted to me by the elders, the interdimensionals. And we're here on a mission, and we know that this is, the human experience is a temporary experience for us. We have family there waiting for us. So yes, I know I am very loved and special to them. What I am here on earth is just like anybody else. I'm just here to, I'm here for a reason and a purpose, and I happen to know it. You know, I know what my niche in life is, and this is it. This is why I came to earth. So am I special? Sure, but I think every human being is special. And we all made a choice to be here for whatever reason. But when I hit 30, they showed me the vision of myself. And I also witnessed my children having their first contacts when they were very young. And they explained it to me when I was a 30-year-old mother, mom, mommy, aunt, sister, blah, blah, blah. Did I understand it at the time? Absolutely not. No, it freaked me out. But through time and through continual experiences and downloads and Kundalinis, I now understand it all. And so I think that we're all here for a reason, and we're all special. And I think a lot of us will start waking up and remembering what our role is. It could be anything, but everybody here has got some role to play. For some, it may not be the positive ways that we like, but they're here for a reason. So we have to be understanding that, you know, there's different people in different roles doing many different things, and not one alone can do it all by themselves. We all need to come together as one and do it all. But that's the beauty of this process, is that people are waking up and getting confidence in themselves to do what it is they're supposed to do. And I think that that's why they gave me the Kundalini awakenings, was to throw me out to doing this, and, you know, get out here and push me into it.
Very good. Yeah, I actually I would concur with all that, and just add a little that I feel myself to have been, I guess it's not to be too computer language, but it sounds, I feel like I'm programmed. I feel like I'm programmed with a certain type of information, a certain body of facts about my experience. Like it's pretty weird how they handled me sometimes, and I do kind of like to reflect on it. You know, they've isolated information with me, and that's what I think the best way to frame it is. And then I became really adept with a certain perspective that is beneficial when I talk about it publicly. And I think that this is helpful when they are operating in a different realm, and that's very foreign to the human, and, you know, can really ruin a life if this wasn't handled properly. So the idea that they did what they did, kind of bottle up the memories and then release things at a certain time, then all of a sudden I have this background of information, was very meticulously, perfectly planned on their behalf. It's such an interesting, intelligent design. And that all
Indeed.
of a sudden I can come out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere, and start speaking about all this content that I realize all of a sudden matches a whole bunch of other people's experiences, and it's really it's quite brilliant on their behalf. And the interesting thing about am I special, or the reality is how I always frame it is just like you, Nancy. I feel I was they showed me this agreement was made before my birth, so there clearly is a desire here for my life to turn out a certain type of way, and the result is
Mhm.
that you know what I didn't I was in the business at one point and didn't have the success that I wanted. I was have an MBA and didn't make the same thing I wanted to out of that degree as I wanted to have occurred. And yet, so I always kind of find it interesting. Yeah, I have a special experience maybe, and then therefore that gives me a certain type of purpose on this planet. But I still consider, the person who is the has the education and then became, a corporate CEO. That person's special. And I consider the person who has, who's written seven songs for the public, and they're all successful. I consider that person special. I consider all of us kind of have some degree of specialness, and that we're trying to all maximize that purpose. And yeah, I just happen to have an agreement with gray aliens, and that turned into my purpose and turns into this position I am in society. And I also do believe that, yeah, just like you, Nancy, just like myself, all of us contact these. We all we all have a theme of similarity, and we all have slight differences, and that's all
Mhm.
fascinating to me. That we really are kind of, I don't want to use the word programmed, but it's kind of like there's a certain set of things that we're supposed to talk about that help
Mhm.
everybody. That's what's just so fascinating about it. And I feel that it's a masterful design of helping humanity. And I can't help but be awed at just the scale of all the contactees and the way different everyone's kind of contributes to the grander picture of this big grand awakening that's occurring. Yeah.
Oh, I agree with both of you. I also believe that I had pre-birth agreements to go through the things that I went through in my life, and not everything I went through in my life was, rainbows and puppies. I was just like everybody else. I had my challenges, but it's interesting to see how my challenges were uniquely qualified me to set me up to be in the position to carry out what I consider to be my pre-birth agreements. And and being an older person, it's lovely to look back, excuse me, at close to 70 years worth of living and to see how it's been so beautifully laid out. Like what you said, Jeff, about being programmed, it's an amazing thing. And as you said, Nancy, I also agree. We're just here for such a short, not even a blink of an eye.
Right.
In 2 generations, probably nobody will even know that I was even here. But what I do while I'm here, I think is very significant. And what you've both talked about too is about us getting in touch with our higher self, figuring ourselves out, working through our own, for lack of a better word, shit, to be in a position to then be able to be of service, I guess, in a greater way while we're here. I think that's really fascinating. Now, my contact is not specifically with the Greys, although there is one being who I would describe as a Grey who I know very well. And he's been the one who has facilitated the other contact that I've had. So, but I would not consider myself an expert at all about the Greys. One thing I wanted to touch back onto that you both mentioned in the very beginning, and that is, if they were here to harm us, they would have done so a long time ago, a long, long time ago. But I have seen no evidence of harm. Um, I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but then again, I also believe that there are some man-made encounters that are supposed to look like ET counters that have been horrific that people have been through. And they usually say, oh, there was military presence there, not to put down the military. I'm just saying, as evidence that there are some man-made contact as well. So, I can't speak to anything other than my own experience, just like the two of you can only speak to your experience. And I also think that we're taking experiences that we don't really have concepts and language for, and we're
Right.
filtering it through our own experience, doing the best we can to share that with other people. And so that again is going to add some differences to our experiences and how we share about our experiences. So I actually would like to just play a very short promotion about my book, which I recently published. And I know I told you, Nancy, but I don't know if I told you, Jeff, but I actually mentioned both of you in my book,
Yeah.
and directed my readers to your
Beautiful.
websites
Yeah.
because I wanted them to know I'm not the only one with a voice here. Jeff, you've got a voice, and Nancy, you've got a voice, and we're all sharing in the same kind of work. And anyone who reads my book, I also mention you at the beginning and then also at the end of the book, can go on and review your information, read your books or your articles. Nancy, you've written quite a few articles, and we're kind of all in this awakening ascension process together. So if it's okay with you, I'm just going to play a very short intro for my book, and then we'll come back, and then I want to get into what does ET want. Let's zero in a little bit on that. Okay, I'll be right back just in about 2 minutes. Transdimensional, meet the new neighbors. Check out my new book available from Amazon bookstores worldwide and read the stunning details about ET diversity and culture, along with their advanced ways of living and expressing spirituality, which is in no way like anything imagined here on Earth. Transdimensional, Meet the New Neighbors introduces you to many different ET beings, the healing pods, the interior of the big ship, my orientation process, cultural events, and off-world mating practices. When I tucked myself into bed for the night back in 2014, I had no idea that I would be transported to the big ship, meet many different extraterrestrial races of beings, become well acquainted with their culture, and visit numerous interesting worlds. While away, I learned a great deal about the big ship, intergalactic and transdimensional travel, intergalactic planetary research, and the various options for resettlement. My true life adventures continued night after night, and I had never experienced anything like this before. The first few times that I awoke back at home, I convinced myself that it had all been some kind of a fantastic dream. But while away, I was eating, sleeping, learning, and visiting, all the while experiencing what I perceived as days, weeks, and months. I am so happy to present you with my true nonfiction account of my weird little life and the more important messages from beyond our realm that I have been tasked to share with all of you. It is my hope and sincere desire that I will inspire you to acknowledge your own transdimensional abilities and experiences so that together we can become the change we wish to see in our world. Paperback and Kindle editions are now available at all Amazon bookstores. Go to the Amazon website, select the bookstore or Kindle store, and enter Transdimensional, Meet the New Neighbors by Karen Holton. The Audible version is coming out soon. And we're back. Yeah, so that's just a little bit about my experiences in my book, but it's just a section of a possible scenario that people may have had. Nancy, yours is another one. Jeff, yours is another one. And we weren't all given the same information. So I think we're supposed to be some kind of a mosaic, of
Right.
experiences to help other people to see what the different potentials are. So yeah, so I thought maybe we could get a little bit into what does ET want? And I know we've talked about, they want to be involved in ascension and elevating humanity, but is more specifically, what do they want? What would you tell people who just are kind of starting to look into this whole phenomenon or are trying to dispel some of the stuff that's being propagated on social media. What's your take on what ET was, Nancy? Do you want to start us off?
Sure. Are you talking about what's currently happening or in overall, which are both?
Whichever you're comfortable talking to,
Either way.
both
Well, for
both or
example,
either.
yeah. So, for example, the overall message is we are all connected, and what they mean by that is uh, we are connected to our planet Earth. We've lost that connection. We are connected to every individual on this planet. We've lost those connections over periods of time. We are energy beings all here having a human experience, and we're all connected. We're connected to the universe. And, once they want us to remember our true inner soul self, they want us to look in and remember our connections, um, and warm together and come together in unity so that we can get things done and change the human experience into a better human, turn ourselves into better human beings and enjoy life on this planet, not be so materialistic, not be so negative, not be so, quit setting boundaries and state lines, rather than being just Nancy from Tennessee, Karen from Canada, and Jeff, I don't know where you're from, but from a state.
Canada.
We are
Canada.
all earthlings. Quit putting borders between us because we are all one. Race, politics, all those things, politics, those things do not matter. We need to outgrow old ways of thinking and realize it's time for change. It's time for us to become better versions of humans. We'll never be perfect. The humans, we were not designed to be perfect, but as we gain higher intelligence, awareness, and understanding, we can learn to be a better version, and we can learn to realize that even though we may still have difference of opinion, we learn to rationalize and work together respectfully, and become a species that will not destroy itself, because that's where we're headed, but become a species that will be talking about our generation in a million years and how we changed the human experience here on Earth. So
Mhm.
that's the big message. And also, they wanted another thing is that everything on this planet is a living conscious being. The plants, the air, the water. So that's an important thing too. They want us to respect our planet, understand that it's a living conscious being, and it's extending right now too, and it's moving with or without us. So, those of us that want to stay with the planet, our planet, and ascend with it, we need to be working on ourselves, on being better. So I'll leave it with that for right now.
Yes, thank you. Very well said. And Jeff, what would you add to that?
Yeah. So I think there's two things for myself. What does ET want? So number one is everything Nancy's saying here. That yeah, I think I do believe that the unity aspect is all part of this. I think that there is an added element that you also mentioned, Nancy, that we've kind of lost our nature. Like our inability to connect with nature has made us lose our nature, and we don't know that we're animals. We don't, not that we're animals, but we don't know that we're part of one with nature, and that lack has created the circumstances that we're in right now. And that may have, had we had that unity, had that connection to nature, I also like to think sometimes, had we not lost our indigenous roots, we've eradicated that out for a grander scientific and just fragmented type of reality that wasn't holistic in its approach. And had we had any of those three, unity, nature, or indigenous roots, if aliens needed to intervene or talk with us or communicate to all of society, that may have gone off a bit differently. And I think that this state that we're in makes it challenging to hear them. And I think that because that's number one, what I think is what entity, what ET wants. The other is I have a bit of a different story from other contactees, and that gives me a different type of language. So, and all I can do is speak to what they told me, and but for them, there's intervention, and that's what the hybrids are all about. And so I was programmed with my story and with my experiences to talk about that, and that's a big part of what my story is all about. And I do believe that there's evidence on the government level that they have awareness of this. And it does, Jacques Vallée at the Soul Foundation said that the science advisor for the Clinton administration was very aware that he gave a metaphor of a frog kissing a prince, and they would marry together and they would become one in a grand family. And it was phrased as a metaphor for the UFO problem. So that's just one example of, there appears to be some idea that the entities do plan to intervene. And, and so my story about what ET wants is, I think that they feel like kind of like older space brother sisters, or interdimensional space brother sisters, or maybe planet, cryptoid terrestrial, older brother space brother sisters, however you want to frame that, as like kind of loving guidance, and that they want this process of coming down and interacting with us in a very peaceful way. They want it to be loving and peaceful. And I think part of my story is to shed light on that too, that for them, and I would agree with what their perspective is, that they're utilizing the unified field as a way to figure out how to interact with us and intervene with us, and how to make that intervention happen. The elder said to me, it was a slow moving but intuitive process. So there's something going on here where they want to be interacting with us, and they want to be merging with us, and they want to be influencing us. And so that's what the gist of my story is. And I do think when you say the words, what does ET want? I think they want us to know that has got our best interest in heart. Their intervention with us is our best interest at heart. And as a planetary species, as the human planetary species. So it's pretty large, but I do think that the best part is that what does ET want? It's clearly about love, right? Unity, love, and family and connection, and yeah, in a way that's interdimensional, so we actually experience it and feel it and know it to be real, not just a hypothetical, theory. And I think that's what ET wants.
Well said. Yeah, I like what you both mentioned, the whole Aboriginal concept. If we had been living in an Aboriginal community, say 400 years ago, generally there would be a shaman that which would help to mediate between the worlds. And isn't it interesting that colonization has tried to stamp out all the Aboriginal communities of the planet and replace it with this very left brain. I think originally we had a balance between the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Things have switched over to this where science has become, and this is just my opinion, a bit of a religion, and our educational systems and all of that are part of very left brain. We've lost our balance and our perspective. But Jeff, you touched a little bit about the hybrid program. Do you want to talk a little bit about the new city that you were? I guess you saw it in vision. I'm not sure. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Please feel free to tell us a bit about the new city.
Yeah, you got it. So okay, I made an agreement with gray aliens to discover my soul. That happened in 1997. 1998 was biological. So I was part of the biological program, and I didn't like it at the time. And it's all in my book, kind of fought with them. And when you're a 20-year-old, you don't have the bigger picture. The entities really just they're not providing it to you, because really all logic you don't understand. So then they're not giving you any information. And slowly over time, were they helping me put the pieces together and helping me understand the bigger picture. And I was actually able to ask questions at one point. The bottom line is that I start seeing hybrids. And so first I see them in a baby a playpen, and then when I'm in the year 2001, I see them as baby, like grown up babies, like children. And then so that was 2001. They came back. I had one more contact event, and then they came back again in 2016. And then basically that was when I got the instruction to write the book. And my memories were now open, even though I had I didn't know about the contact, so it would take years to understand it all. But at 2016 was an actual contact event, and I was taken out of my bedroom, and she's giving me an instruction to write everything out that happened between us, and tell the world that we're coming, and there will be a new city. And then she's connected with her eyes, and she's projecting an image into my mind. And I'm seeing a city that I'd seen on a planet hologram back in 1998. So they were making a grander picture. And the city was like a metallic emerald city, some type of metal that is just, got an emerald kind of feel to it. It's very wild. And it was highly condensed, but massive. And I could see within the city were the hybrids I'd seen growing up. So the baby hybrids, but at this point they were all grown up. And so she's giving me this image, but they were wearing pants and t-shirts. And so they weren't like looking like aliens, they were actually looking like humans. And there was a clear feeling was that these were the babies I'd seen, and now they're all growing up. And I actually had kind of bonded with them when they were children. So here they are, I'm feeling bonded to them. And she's basically saying, the work you're going to do is going to help us. And I actually, in the moment, felt very connected to this. And I felt very much like I have to help with this. This is A, it's going to help us. But also B, that this is kind of a bigger picture, that I could see this being a problem. And so, yeah, having a person kind of speaking positively about this could actually be beneficial for all parties. And I think that's the gist of it. I think the other part that was really fascinating was when I saw that hybrid, it didn't feel like an alien mixed with human. It felt like a new person. It felt much more human than I realized it would. And it didn't feel like a very weird alien mixed with humans. It actually felt very much like a person with something new. Something new had added into this person. And they were very much a brother or a sister. There was very much a camaraderie, an ease of camaraderie, that this was something new. And it was very exciting, actually. And so nothing threatening. It was actually had no monster or threatening a sound to it. And that's kind of the gist of it. And then that was the kind of larger message. And having seen this city in a previous contact event, I understood some things about what it meant that this city was coming. And I kind of divulge all that in my book. But the bottom line is, yeah, I think there's a premise here of hybrids being putting down, and then there might be a place for them to be safe or something like that. And that's what the city kind of represents, even if it's just symbolic. I also say this in the book too. Maybe this is just symbolism. I mean, as a human, a logical human, you want to see plans, right? You want to see, or maybe even a future event that I can say, no, that feels like the future. This was her projecting something in my mind that seemed very symbolic, but, added up to a larger picture of what my entire story is about. And, they fly around my house. So obviously the story is important to them. So, yeah, it's kind of the bigger picture of hybrids, and that it's beneficial to us, not scary, and much more loving. And I think a lot more, spiritual, dimensional, unity focused than we expect. And I've said this to many people. I think people are going to be shocked at what it actually feels like to interact with one of these entities. Much more benevolent than you think it is, and a lot less scary. And that's what my story, I think, is trying to emphasize.
Wonderful. Nancy, do you want to add anything about the hybrid program or any experiences you may have had down, along that line?
For me, they explained to me about misinformation and how the human mind can create these things as a way to rationalize their experiences. And they show me and explain to me how it is not even physically capable of occurring. Um, Sometimes they will actually, I mean, I've asked them questions like, like about soulmates. I asked them questions about personal things. Even like I've asked them about hybrids and things of this nature, and they are not. They tell me that they are not compatible sexually. We are more like an animal. They have evolved way above us, and there is nothing from us that they need. And the whole point of us to raise our frequency is to get our frequency closer to their frequency. Now,
Mhm.
in my mind, I could see where creating a hybrid from their perspective, I'm trying to think, where it would be a stepping stone to try to bridge or gap two dimensional frequencies together and would make it easier to for us to have every day around, because right now at this point, us still being, just now going into the fourth towards the fifth dimension, and they're above these things. They can, if they came to earth today, they would never ever get out of the craft, because the density in this realm is so dense and uncomfortable to them. And for us to go to theirs, they literally change my frequency, vibrate me into a higher frequency so that I can go on craft and have a conscious vision. And when they bring me back and talk to me as they start to leave, sometimes they'll start rubbing my tummy and telling me, because the difference between being in their dimension and then coming here is very uncomfortable to the human. It's very uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And I've asked them, well, how do you, co-create, blah, blah, blah. And point blank, they have no intention and do not co-create with human beings.
Mhm.
We don't have anything they need or desire. And they've explained to me that, you know, we are going to reach that level of a frequency to be closer and closer. And there are other extraterrestrials that are already closer to us. There doesn't need to be a human version at all.
Mhm.
And what people don't realize, they are billions, not millions, billions of years ahead of us in evolution. And if you look at our science, our genetics, and what we are capable of doing to recreate something, it does not take anything from a human being. They have their data bank and knowledge and library of all things. They've been around before we were ever created and played a part in our creation. And
Mhm.
the way that we think that they do things is a human way of rationalizing, a human way of understanding. They are
Mhm.
beyond our capabilities of understanding. So sure, they could perhaps take a piece of DNA, which would be like a hair follicle or a fingernail, all this dramatic stealing sperm, egg, blah, blah, blah. Those things do not occur because that is a prehistoric version of trying to understand the reality that they live in, because in their world, for example, you and I, we are all on our laptops or our computers. And if we go outside, I have to take this with me. In
Mhm.
their reality, they do not have to do anything. Their consciousness is their technology. They can create
Mhm.
whatever they want. It is not a separate entity like it is for us here on Earth. So, a lot of these things about these hybrids and all these different things, I don't understand how people cannot see the science and the medicine. If you look at our technology, I really just don't see, I guess it's like they tell me, be patient, let evolution run its course, because there's a lot of this kind of thing that needs to surface and help people with, because we have to bridge these gaps.
Uh-huh.
We have to bridge these gaps. And we have to get closer to the truth about all this. These are not stories. I do write articles. These are not stories just to tell. These are stories of information, and we need to try to work together to get them all right. And I think that's what's one good thing about, you were talking about that survey of over 5,000 to 6,000 people did bring out a lot of truths, on topics like this, on the hybrid program, on abductions in general, and it's just like Travis Walton, when it first happened to him, it was horrible and devastating. But as we age, as we evolve, as we ascend, our perception changes, our intellectual level changes, and we see things differently. And I think that's one of the main reasons why this is all happening on Earth, because we're either going to destroy ourselves until we learn we don't know everything, until we learn that we have to accept new knowledge and information that we're going to be tuning into and work it out amongst each other in civil ways. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I also think that that there are many different ways that we have contact, depending on our personal ability, capabilities. And I also know that um, when we consider things from both a physical and a transdimensional perspective, there's infinite possibilities of beings who might be reaching out on different levels of consciousness or states of consciousness, making contact with us. So that's why I never disregard anybody's experience, because mine is pretty unimaginable and unbelievable in its own way.
Yeah.
My contact is transdimensional, so I don't even know exactly how I get there, or how they bring me there, or how I'm able to do what I do. I'm just related to the best of my ability, how it felt and how I perceived it to
Yeah.
be. So I don't know, like, I don't think there's a definitive answer on reality. And like you said, Nancy, these beings are probably billions of years ahead of us. The group
Yes.
that I had contact with, they are only at our next stage of development. They're not that far ahead, but they're a wonderful example of how we could be living on Earth today. I mean, this whole, I don't know about you guys, but I don't even watch mainstream news, but even the alt news, like on YouTube, it's
I don't either.
crazy making what's going on. And it makes me think that we've digressed as far as our human development goes. The pettiness and the lies and deception and all of this, how disgusting. And it makes me even wonder why ET would want to have anything to do with us. We're so primitive. But at the same time, many of us are waking up. We're starting to experience the whole ascension process. We're starting to have paranormal experiences. And we're starting to know in our heart of hearts, we can be different, we can do better. I think that is really kind of at the heart of ET's message, of what ET wants, is just to wake us up to some different possibilities, maybe. Now, we've got only a few minutes left. I'm wondering if you would each like to take a few minutes to sort of summarize your thoughts, or anything that's come up for you, or anything that you want to share with the audience before we say goodbye for today. Jeff, you want to start us off?
Let me think about this. So there is, okay, well, I don't have enough time to talk about it, so I won't delve into anything Nancy said there, but there is some pretty good understanding about the perspective that the aliens gave me to be very real. And we have some evidence behind it, and we have alien DNA, and they do appear to. There was an EBO scientist who went public, and all his content matched my own, and they do apparently have genetic DNA structure that could merge with the human structure, and that's part of the reason why this body apparently came from the Roswell entity. And I know that sounds a bit nuts, but I've done a lot of my research. It's all on my YouTube channel, and I didn't have this knowledge when I came out with my memories. And John Ramirez said, talked about the DNA structure of the aliens actually surprisingly being so similar to humans, and it's in part why why we don't have disclosure. And it could be the reason we don't have disclosure is that there is a plan to intervene, and it's terrifying, and that's why the government has. And we just don't have a lot of the other evidence for all these other things. And the aliens to be flying around my home telling me this story that I didn't have any background knowledge about when all the memories came out, and for it to match, I think the idea is that it's terrifying, and I think a lot of people do create a lot of pushback on it. And I'm just saying, hey man, like even Jacques Vallée said this, right? And it was the science advisor to the Clinton administration who was talking about merging, and that was the whole point. That was the UFO problem. So I think that it's not confusion, and it's not messing up my memories or not being told misinformation. I think that the aliens are purposely blocking out information and making it streamlined for contactees, and that's what seems to be the case, because someone will disagree with all three of us, and someone's out there saying lizards are actually real, and you guys all got confused by lizards, and there's someone out there who's channeling something from another dimension, saying something very different from all three of us. So I think that that's part of what's going on here. And but so yeah, my whole piece is I want to thank you for having me on, and the bottom line is love is the key here, right? And unity, and I think we can all agree that evolution is at play, and our evolution, and that's a spiritual evolution, and that's what they told me, is that this is a movement from as a planetary species, we're moving into an identity that is that's taking consideration of our planetary identity as a species. So we're not just Canadian and Americans. We are of this planet, and that identity is a spiritual one that we move into, and I think I think that's what we touch on here today. So
Thank you, Jeff. Excellent. Nancy.
Yes. Again, like I want to say again, that rather than looking outside at YouTube, research from people that are not experiencers themselves, instead of like using a middleman, look within your own soul self. Go up to your subconscious. Your subconscious knows everything. It made a decision to come here. It's here with you, waiting for you to ask it to open up to you. We do not need to get our information from YouTube or anywhere. It's all upstairs in our mind. And that's what they've taught me, is to tell humanity, listen to your inner soul self, listen to your heart, follow your gut feelings. We're a lot more unique and have a lot of things that have not even been activated yet because we haven't attempted it. We can do anything. We are very unique and purposeful, and we can contribute a lot to the cosmic realm once we figure out who we are on a soul level and understand that we have so much potential, and we don't need to, we can do this all ourselves. We are the disclosure. Human beings are the disclosure. And for us to figure that out and be at one with it and come together is the important thing.
Now, before I let you go and we say goodbye, Jeff, do you want to tell everybody a little bit, like what's the name of your book? The links are going to be below in the description for both of you. But for those listening on audio, I thought it would be nice if you could tell people where they can find you, the name of your book, just a few things like that.
Sure. My name is Jeff Selver. My website is my full name, www.jeffselver.com. My book is The Rising and the Alien Plan to Build an Enlightened City on Earth. And that's available directly at my website, which is an Amazon link, and you can purchase it from there. So,
yeah. Wonderful. And Nancy, where can people find you? And do you want to speak a little bit about your website?
Timefordisclosure.com. And then I have like several Facebook groups that I admin. They're all very special, and I moderate a lot. I belong to a bunch, including, I see y'all's names on all the ones I'm on. I love it. I absolutely love it. I think that's the best place for people to interact and get information. So yeah, you can find me anywhere, So timefordisclosure.com, and then just Time for Disclosure. We've never been alone. We are the disclosure. And there's other places. So yeah, I would love to have people in there. The best way we can do is to interact and share experiences and get to know one another, and work on trying to be more positive and inspire each other to do so.
I totally agree. Well, thank you very much, Jeff
Thank
and
you.
Nancy, for being on the show today. It was a real pleasure. Love talking to both of you. Hopefully we can do this again sometime in the new year. And I hope you all have a wonderful New Year's. And I want to say thank you to everybody out there on the audio podcasts, on the replay. Those of you who came on the live chat today, it's been a real pleasure to have you join us. So for those of you who wish to, I have the Quantum Guide Show on Wednesday at an hour later. And then, of course, we'll be back for more aliens and angels next Sunday. So I'll just say bye-bye, everybody, and thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining me for the Aliens and Angels podcast. Read about my true life ET contact in my book called Transdimensional Meet the New Neighbors, which is now available on Amazon worldwide. Subscribe to my YouTube, Rumble, and X channels at Karen Holton TV. The like button and leave me a comment. And please do share this podcast with your friends. Check out my website at www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All of the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you'll also find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.